Welcome back to the Green Screen, the only UNT sports news show. Last week I was out, but I have returned. But today I'm taking over for our host Evanson, who thinks he can skip out like he said I did and go on vacation to Cabo, but he said he's sick. Before we get into a full week of Mean Green sports, we have to start the show off with football, who are bouncing back from a 63-36 loss against USF, 2 weeks ago. The North Texas Mean Green clinched the bowl game Saturday afternoon after a 55-17 win against American Conference foe UT San Antonio, improving to 6-1 on the year. Following a forced 3-and-out, we see Drew Mestemaker find Wyatt Young for his first touchdown of the day on a 20-yard pass, which you see him celebrating with the fans. Coming back from that touchdown, we see Colin Lewis forcing a pass deflection on a very needy third down to get the stop. Drew Mestemaker came down, drove down the field, passing the ball to Wyatt Young for his second touchdown of the day. And the defense played phenomenal, getting key stops when needed. As we see next up, Ethan Day comes up with a big hit on UTSA's quarterback, forcing the first sack of the day. Following this sack, we see Kiefer Sibley waltz into the end zone on an 18-yard touchdown, jumping in at the last second to take a lead at the halftime. Another big sack here by Bryceon Hayes, which forced a fumble that was recovered by Trey Fields, spoiling UTSA's opening drive. And this offense had great field position as we see Drew Mestemaker waltz into the end zone for a rushing touchdown. This offense bounced back heavily. As we know, the first half of that USF game was a lot of defense and setting up our offense, but this week, we bounced back. Mestemaker finished with 277 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, and scored a rushing touchdown. Miles Coleman was out for the game, suffering an injury against USF, but Wyatt Young stepped up when it mattered the most, catching 6 balls for 102 yards and 3 touchdowns. Caleb Hawkins has continued to put his name out there and get recognized, putting on a show with 223 total yards and a season high of 18 carries, rushing for another 100 yards. Cam Dorner got his first start of the year, contributing with 8 catches for 63 yards and a trip to the end zone. Taking a look at the defense, as we know they struggled a lot against USF once that second half started, with bad field position, letting touchdowns happen, but this day was eventful, forcing 4 sacks, recovering 3 fumbles, in a game where analysts predicted was going to be the Robert Henry Jr. show. Will Jones led the team with 6 total tackles, followed by B.J. Allen Jr., Braden Knox, Patrick Smith-Young, and Ethan Wislowski, who all finished with 5 total tackles. The defense was able to get back on track, making a statement that one bad game will not throw them off. The football team will travel to Charlotte to face off against the 49ers on a Friday night a short week game, actually. And this year they've had some struggles on the road, but with both of those games outcome coming to a win in overtime for the Mean Green. Head coach Eric Morris has had some things to say in this week's press conference on how to come out victorious.
Challenge, I think, for us to go on the road and when we have been on the road this year, which we haven't in a while right now, so that's something for me, to get our guys back ready. And then, we've had to win in overtime the 2 times that we've been on the road. And so obviously, that's something that always creeps in my mind right now is we got to handle this trip to the East Coast, the time change, playing at night, all these different things, and we got to do a great job at handling all that.
I'm expecting some cooler weather on the East Coast, especially this time around the year, so something new for our team to face. And also, this game has conference standing implications. We just seen last week that Memphis lost to UAB, which was an uncharacteristic loss for them. And right now, the UNT are sitting at 4th in the conference standing with about 4 or 5 games left to go. Moving on from football, we head to Baylee Dusuau telling us about the UNT volleyball team.
Thank you, Jayden. And the weather is not the only season that is changing. Volleyball did their thing over the weekend, defeating both ECU and Memphis, bringing our record to 15-5, which now ties as the second best start in program history, matching the record from 2012. So it seems that after a mediocre and rocky start, in conference play, the girls have finally gotten their mojo back, especially if we take a look at these stats. Alexa Washington decided that getting the first triple-double in program history was not enough for her, so she did it again last Friday against the Pirates, becoming the 7th Division I player this season to record a triple-double in consecutive matches. According to Washington, she doesn't play specifically to get stats like triples and doubles. In fact, after Friday's game, she said, "I'm just going to try my best. If it happens, it happens, and if it doesn't, that's all right." So it seems like the captain's cool composure reflects directly to her consistent performance on the court. And we cannot forget about the talented Lily Croshaw, who led the team with a career high of 20 kills, with finishing with 0 errors on 30 attacks, bringing her hitting percentage to 67%. And so the Mean Green is going to take a 4-game win streak on the road as they meet up with Tulsa Friday at 5:30, and then they're going to meet up with Wichita State Sunday at 1. And Wichita, they're looking like a pretty decent team this season. They've beaten some of the same teams as the Mean Green have, so it's going to be, a really good competition there. But the real test lies in Tulsa, who has an overall record of 17-3 with 0 losses at home and a winning streak of 6. And this will undoubtedly be the game of the weekend, with the last exciting game like this being, I would say, UTA, who also had an impressive record, being undefeated at the time, of course, until they met up with the Mean Green. So let's hope we can repeat history and give Tulsa their overdue loss. And although there's not a home game that you guys can attend, you guys can support the Mean Green on ESPN. And so that's all I got. Back to you, Jayden.
Thank you, Baylee. The UNT basketball team held its Nightmare on Elm Street tip-off event last night that seemed very, very fun. Our reporter, Mason Garcia, was there to check it out.
Mean Green basketball is back. The energy was apparent at the 2nd annual Nightmare on Elm Street event, where both the women's and men's teams were introduced for the 2025 season in the Denton Square. The TWU women's basketball team led the way for the Mean Green nightcap. The fans were not only introduced to the new rosters, but also first-year head coach Daniel Robinson.
Well, this is like a great event for a kickoff. You got great fan support, you got the band out here, you got music, you feel the energy. It just kind of gets you ready for basketball season. It's great, having the women out here, and all these little kids coming up, getting our guys' autographs. I think, you give a ton of credit to our university for setting this up, the athletic department setting this up. It's a great event for our fans, great interaction for our student athletes. I mean, you think about it, we're just 2 weeks away from playing, and so that gets you excited. Another opportunity. Our guys want to represent UNT the right way, be the hardest playing team out there, and be the most connected. So I'm excited about, just the opportunity that we have ahead of us.
Both teams competed in games throughout the night and made sure to put on a show for the Mean Green faithful along the way. The men's team starts November 3rd at the Coliseum against New Mexico Highlands, and the women play their first game right before then at 5:30 against Oklahoma Christian.
Sticking with basketball, I'm joined by reporter Elijah Thomas here at the desk, who is very excited about the upcoming basketball season.
Yes, I'm doing good. I'm doing great, and I'm very excited.
So, the Nightmare on Elm Street event last night kind of previewed who this team is. I mean, what are your thoughts and expectations for this year?
As I mentioned last time I was on the show, we have a completely different coaching staff, completely different players, and who knows, even completely different managers that come into the building and this UNT basketball team. And over 200 to 300 fans got to see them last night and meet them on the Nightmare on Elm Street event, where we had fun activities, we had team intros, we had giveaways and different things like that, just to spread some, Mean Green basketball throughout the air, to have a fun upcoming season to come. And some expectations for UNT, for me personally, is that it's all the way to the ceiling, right? We need to go get a conference championship. We need to go to get a March Madness tournament. We haven't seen that in years, since like 2021. So for us, tired of the NIT, let's get there again, right? As we seen in the video that reported by Mason Garcia was that we're connected. It's defense, defense, defense. Our coach preaches defense. So we want to get to a point where we're defensive minded. We got a bigger roster. And those two things alone, we all know, everybody in this room knows defense wins championships,
yes,
right?
Sir,
so we want to get there. We want to get it done. We want a conference championship. We don't want to get in second place this year. We want to go all the way. We want to get back in that conference tournament.
You know, so I was able to go to that event last night, and the energy was there. You know, a lot of people seem like to be ready as well for this team. And, you know, the season opener is next Wednesday. What can you tell me about that?
If you haven't got your season tickets, you better go get them right now, right? So welcome back, Mean Green fans. And this year, we have Louisiana to start off the year, October 29th on a Wednesday night. It's a kind of a preseason tune-up game to start the year to get us ready for the real game November 3rd against the New Mexico Highlands. So it's a game that we need to look to get some momentum and to look to see some things that we can work on to start the season on November 3rd.
And, you know, I feel like UL Lafayette might have a better team than New Mexico Highlands, so that might feel like a real season opener. You know, like you said, this is an exhibition game, but how could this game give the team some momentum going into the season?
Yeah, you could take a lot from an expedition game. It's not just, you know, you just going on in there and, you know, just willing your team to victory, right? There's a lot of things you need to work on, the X's and O's, to get your team ready, right? We need to get our team ready to get some momentum going into that first game November 3rd against New Mexico Highlands. And it's always great to get your first head coach win right here at home in the Super Pit in front of these fans, in front of this crowd, right here at home, November 3rd against New Mexico Highlands. So this game is going to give us some momentum, right? Louisiana Cajuns, they're a team that plays hard, they play physical, they play some hard-nosed defense. So we need to look like a team that's ready to win during the year. Preach these defensive principles, preach these continuity, preach this connectivity throughout the roster and through the head coach, and get some momentum and get our head coach his first win right here at the Super Pit on Monday night, November 3rd.
So thank you, Elijah. I feel like there's a lot to look forward to for new head coach Daniel Robinson taking the helm. To move on to another sport, we have Jake Broom here. Jake Broom joined the women's soccer team this past week, and here's what he gathered.
UNT started out against conference member Rice strong. UNT was able to strike first with a goal from junior captain Mia Bernard, assisted by Rachel Roebuck and Peyton Renfro in the 15th minute. Then, 5 minutes later, Claire Niedermeyer made the scoreline 2-0. Unfortunately, Rice was able to quickly strike back and ultimately was able to even the scoreline before the 30-minute mark. The Mean Green was showing promise throughout the rest of the game, however, was unable to cash in on many chances presented to them. Both teams traded chances in big moments, but the scoreline remained 2-2 until the final whistle. After the game, Rachel Roebuck talked about how the Mean Green could do a better job at converting chances.
This week, we've been really working on offensively getting stronger and just getting more chances. We've been having a lot of chances in past games, but really just coming at teams more, I would say, imposing our will on them. So we'll just continue to work on it, and we'll just get that finishing down.
Both Claire Niedermeyer and Ava Haley received questionable cautions late in the second half, but were able to remain strong and diligent. Both Rice keeper Kristen Ruff and UNT keeper Alina Arneth put up 4 saves on the day. UNT outshot Rice 19-10, but could not replicate their first half success. However, this is still a great game on UNT's part in showing what we saw in early September. UNT is definitely starting a comeback. This has been Jake Broom with the Green Screen.
Thank you, Jake. And one thing that a lot of you guys might not know about the studio here is that we actually have one of our favorite players on that team. And like Josh liked to say, it's the one and the only Mia Bernard. So very excited to see how she does and how the UNT soccer team comes up against their next matchup, which is tonight against USF in Tampa at 6 p.m. Best of luck to them. We will now head over to Josh Landers and what he has to say about our tennis team.
Thanks, Jayden. And it is finally time. The time that all UNT tennis fans have been waiting for. The American Athletic Conference championships. Let's talk about it. The AAC championship starts today, October 23rd, and wraps up October 26th. So plenty of tennis will be played, and plenty of good tennis will be played in that time frame. Our UNT women are looking forward to playing at a high level against conference competition. The fall championships will be held in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It'll be impressive how we do, and it'll show us how we will play for upcoming March against our conference competition that we'll be playing in this AAC championship tournament. Last year, our Mean Green women went 4-4 overall in singles and 1-1 overall for doubles play for the AAC championship. They started off last year's championship 0-3 overall. However, with some key victories from the likes of sophomore Stanislava Shulshenko, who led the way in a singles in a semifinal finish in the consolation bracket before she ultimately transferred to the Iowa State Cyclones for this season. After the AAC championship is the Hurricane Invitational held in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which will be hosted by Tulsa. Last season's Hurricane Invitational went extremely and incredibly well and successful, led by Stefani and Fomi and Lily Schultz, who ultimately won the gold doubles title for group number 2. They went undefeated in opening play, narrowly defeating opponents from the likes of Tulsa, and also before wrapping up the doubles title with wins against from teams such as Wichita State and UCA. The Mean Green's record from last year's Hurricane Invitational really jumps off the page. They finished 11-7 overall for singles and 6-2 overall record for doubles competition. UNT had 5 different players last year post a 2-1 record respectively during last year's Hurricane Invite. These players were Shuroshenko, Ladner, Infomi, Adati, and Schultz. Once the Hurricane Invitational wraps up on November 3rd, it finishes up the invitational season for the Mean Green, as well as wrapping up the fall season. UNT will return for dual play in the spring, starting in early to mid-January, and they are beyond ready to prove themselves during their 3rd season in the American Athletic Conference. Thank you, Jayden, and back to Jayden at the desk.
Thank you, Josh. I'm very hopeful that this team can bring the broom and sweep the competition through the rest of the fall season. Again, this has been another great week of Mean Green sports. Evanson will return from his vacation in Cabo next week, and hopefully with many stories and gifts. Here at the studio, we want to personally thank you guys for joining us on the Green Screen, the only UNT sports news show. And as always, the Eagle has landed, and we will see you guys next week.